there's a contrast here. See, not gossip would be something like saying the church board meeting had to be moved from Wednesday to Thursday because someone had a conflict, because there was a scheduling conflict. Gossip would be saying the church board meeting had to be moved from Wednesday to Thursday because George had a conflict, and just between you and me, George and his wife have a counseling appointment with the pastor on Wednesday night. They may be having marital problems. See, the difference is intent. Intent says that I am sharing this prayer request in order to get this person help. Gossip's intent says, I am sharing this prayer request in order to convey this information because it's really good. Why is gossip such a temptation? Why is gossip something that people just keep coming back to? Not a rhetorical question, sorry. Gossip is something that everyone struggles with, I believe, because we like to feel better about ourselves. And sometimes we can do that most easily, by tearing down someone else. Gossip, I think, is a dangerous thing because it is showing that we have information that others don't. Everyone has heard a child say, I know something you don't know, you don't know. Yeah, everyone has heard that. That's what gossip is. I know something you don't know. Gossip has no place in the mature Christian, man or woman. The next thing Paul goes on to say, they must not be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good, that they can train the younger women. To teach younger women. It's interesting that this is mentioned specifically in the passage about women, but not the passage about men. See, it's not always going to be proper, and it's very rarely correct for an older man to teach younger women. Older believers make excellent teachers. They have experience, they have knowledge, they have practical wisdom that will benefit everyone who will listen. It is both their privilege and their responsibility to pass that along. Older believers have a wealth of knowledge, years of experience to pass along to younger believers. It is also the privilege and the responsibility of the younger believers to listen and learn from the older believers. It is a great thing to see a church that uses older believers to teach the younger children in the church. It's a great thing to see all of the church body working together to grow its members. The last thing we're going to be looking at is examples for the young. The first thing he says here, that they can train younger women, number one, to love their husbands and children. So my question on that front is, why even teach on this? Isn't that kind of an instinct? I mean, generally, younger women will love their husbands and children. Why even teach this? No.
Restoration. Women being the center of the home are usually a recipient of a tremendous amount of frustration and anger from others, and then they turn to unless they're operating in love.
To deal with the pressures that are put on women as the center of the home. And frustrations and angers. See, here's the thing. I was thinking about not making this question rhetorical, and then I realized I don't have any insight on young women. I've never been a young woman. I don't know. Yes.
About everything that an older woman has gone through in her marriage and raising her children. Every younger woman is going to go through the very same thing. So it's easy and it's good to have somebody that has been there, done that, to share her experience.
So to share experiences on things that the young lady is going to face in her life.
I don't think it's necessarily instinctive that they're going to love their husbands or their children necessarily. When problems come up, or situations they haven't had to deal with, or they don't know how to deal with it. I mean, none of us had a perfect childhood. These broken bubbles.
That was my thought, is that often we must learn what true love really looks like. And sometimes true love looks like discipline. And sometimes true love is difficult. Sometimes true love doesn't come naturally. I heard someone once say that I love my child too much to discipline them. I said, I don't think you understand. Love, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. I said, if you truly loved your child, you would discipline them so that they would understand what the correct thing and the incorrect thing is, so that they will be able to function in society. Because if you have met a child who has been undisciplined their entire life, they are not. Yes.
Love is not the same thing as like. And love is a duty, and that's why we had to be commanded to love.
Is love a choice? Yes. It is a choice you must make unconditionally every day. It is a command. And we have the option of whether or not to obey it. That is why this is taught, to love their husbands and children. The next thing Paul says is to be kind and to be homemakers, kind and submissive, or the NIV translates that busy at home. And this is where people say, everybody screams that the Bible is old-fashioned. Everybody says, well, this is just, keep them barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen. Or, and everybody says that the Bible is old-fashioned in its view and should not be is not relevant for today and is not relevant for the modern family. I believe they are wrong. I've had people tell me, oh, the Bible just teaches that women are supposed to be their places at home, and they're degraded and put down in the Bible, and they're not valued the same as men in the Bible. I asked them, have you read the Bible? See, this phrase here, it says, busy at home. That's the way the NIV translates it. The phrase is actually keepers of the home. Keepers of the home. And that does not mean kept at home. It's not the same. I'm going to read some sections from Proverbs because I feel that they are relevant. Has anyone ever heard of the Proverbs 31 woman? That is a very common passage. That is the go-to passage when people ask what a woman of God should look like. And I ask my friends who tell me this all of the time, I ask them, have you read Proverbs 31? Because it does not describe what you are talking about. Proverbs 31, starting verse 13, it says, she selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. She draws on her strength and reveals that her arms are strong. Later on in that passage, verse 24, she makes and sells linen garments and delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her household and is never idle. Does this describe a stay-at-home mom who is degraded and does nothing but cooks food? No. This describes a strong, loving, caring woman who has many skills and is encouraged to use them, who is respected and wise and revered. People who say that the Bible has an old-fashioned view of women just really don't understand. These passages talk about her priority being for her home. And that's what that means, is that her priority is to her home. And if that means working to provide for her home, that's what it means. If that means staying at home and taking care of children because that's the priority of her home, that's what it means. And if that means anything else to any other woman who is put in any situation, that's what it means. This is not talking about someone who is just kept at home. The last portion of this passage is talking specifically about young men. Similarly, encourage young men to be self-controlled. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. Older men are to be examples for younger men. The word example in verse 7 has the meaning of an impression made by a die. Every time I think about teaching or being an example to the young men in the youth group that I work with, or in classes that I went to in college or anywhere, I think to myself, what if each one of these young men turned out to be just like me? And then I kind of shudder. Yes, that one was rhetorical. What if each one of these young men turned out to be just like me? He continues on. Set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching, show integrity and seriousness. Hypocrisy was something that Jesus blamed the Pharisees for. Matthew 23, verse 3, therefore, do whatever they tell you and observe it, but don't do what they do because they